Once we read that, it was an aha moment. The brilliant, brilliant work that's being done on this now. Recent studies came out showing that this phytochemical has the power well beyond anything that we've ever employed in modern medicine or traditional medicine to prevent and reverse disorders and disease. Mindfulness. Now, we used to talk about this way back in the 60s, and it was foo-foo and wild and Eastern, and nobody went with it. Now there's serious studies done this. So here in our comprehensive cancer program, and in every one of our programs, we focus in on visualization and mindfulness, because this activates your body's well-being as much as what you eat, how you exercise, and how you relate in your work and private life with others. Quite remarkable stuff. This particular study was actually a meta-study where they took 20 well-done, well-fashioned studies way back in 2016 and looked at the common factors that they found from mindfulness, meditation, mindfulness prayer, mindfulness contemplation. Whatever your flavor is, it's perfectly fine. But what it really boils down to is you letting the noise go away and you focusing on what matters, going back to the original statements I made, inspiration. You need to listen to what's here, that voice of reason, that voice of sanity, and that voice of consciousness in your heart. When you do that, these 20 studies showed that your circulation and stimulation throughout your entire body of inflammatory proteins go down. So inflammation goes down. After how long? This is 5 minutes, people. We're not thinking about doing this for 5 years straight for 2 hours a day. 5 minutes, we now have evidence to show inflammation reduced. Cellular transcription, that means explaining to the cell what's going on, factors and gene expression. So it puts good genes on so that the disorder is not there and shuts bad genes off. Similar work was done on diet years ago when they put animal foods in. Within less than a second, the bad gene was turned on for cancer. They took it away from the equation. Within a second, the good gene was turned on to fight the cancer. Now think about that. Now, beyond eating correctly and eating plant-based and eating organic and hopefully raw in great part, if not in total, now we're actually doing with our minds too. This is why a pillar of what we've been doing here since 1956 is mindfulness. It's as important as your food. Your immune cell count. Some of these studies were mind-boggling. Within a short time, more than 5 minutes, they found that some people increased the number of immune system cells up to 40%. Think about that. You're actually manifesting things that weren't there at the beginning. They didn't exist at the beginning. You're actually bringing them out. And they're coming out of a stem cell, which is bone marrow and organ systems of the body, just by the fact you relax. And why? Because everything I've said to you today comes to this moment we're speaking about, that the body is at rest. It's trusting. It's feeling whole. It's feeling happy. It's feeling centered. You're breathing. You're going back to the origins of who you are, your breath. And when you do that, the trust factor lets everything work the way it should. It doesn't make things happen that shouldn't be happening. It actually allows things to happen that you've been preventing from happening. Antibody response. Now, antibodies, as you know, are really, really important parts of the immune function of the body. The innate and the adaptive immune system. The innate immune system, by the way, are the real soldiers. They're the guys who come out when the virus you're breathing in, or the bacteria or mold, whatever it may be you're breathing in, comes in. They beat it up, beat it up, beat it up. For the first 96 hours, that's who beats it up. Now, if some slip by, you have the adaptive immune system. The adaptive immune system is led by the great generals, the T cells and the B cells. And they literally beat the heck out of them and say, hey, if the soldiers didn't get you, we're going to get you. But now we're saying that you actually increase the strength of the overall immune system, innate and adaptive immune system, by the mere fact that you're putting the noise out. You're focusing. You're listening. You're relaxing. You are connected to all other life here on this earth and into the multiple universes. You are a live wire that you've intentionally unplugged. It's time to plug yourself back in and become inspired by not only your own inner self, your inner strength, but by the connectivity to all else at all times. It's great to be alive and live at a human level. This is not extraordinary. This is just ordinary we're talking about. Dutch scientists show that flavonoids, which are one of the catechins, for instance, one of the phytochemicals we discussed in plants, literally had people who were unbelievably more healthy by the fact when they looked at women who were eating these rich organic, plant-based foods in their raw state were much lighter and happier in their bodies than women who were eating the cooked varieties, because once you cook the plant, no matter how organic it is, the phytochemicals are gone. The flavonoids are gone, the catechins are gone, and the list goes down, 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 down. There's so many, we're discovering more as time passes. Reverse insulin resistance. So I wrote about this in one of our books way back in 2020, Menopause, where we describe that women always are given the rap, oh my God, you had menopause. Well, women start normally in their 40s, men start menopause, it's really called andropause, at 26 years old. So we talked about muscle and the important muscle has in the overall well-being of a human being throughout their life. If you're 100 years old, you need muscle. So when you build muscle and you weight train, as I did today, I was at the gym 3 hours before here sharing time with all of you all over the globe. This is part of my life. This is as important as everything else we've talked about today. You literally are going to have less spiking of insulin. Avoid all ultra-processed food. We were joking last night here in class that now people get their meals when they go and pump gas. They go into the gasoline superstores, as they call them. What's super about them, I have no idea. But can you imagine? They're eating hot dogs, they're eating potato chips, all with synthetic opiates in it, hyperpalatability opiates in it. Remember, go back to what I spoke about earlier, Dr. Kessler and his investigative work. Consume sufficient quality protein. Now, when you hear protein, you immediately think meat. That's what a great con job the meat and dairy industry has had on you for more than 100 years. Think about that. When I think of protein, the last thing I think about is meat. It's not protein a human being can absorb, digest, and utilize. It's a muscle of an animal that's going to sit in your body 3 days and pollute the body, give you disorder and disease. And by the way, make you much more unhappy because it's going to destroy the flora and intestinal bacteria that we spoke about that is directly connected to the serotonin receptor sites in the brain. And you want to take protein that's already pre-digested. Now, there's two foods, one we've talked about, sprouts that take proteins, break them down to usable amino acids. So even in a person who's struggling because they're ill, within 15 to 30 minutes, they'll absorb sprout protein. And again, the Hippocrates diet is the highest protein, usable, affected protein diet in the world. Second one is algae. Blue-green algae, green algae, phytoplanktons, already broken down to simple chain amino acids so that the body cell can take it in, regulates blood sugar, so you don't have an insulin spike. Then we also look at gut problems. Just yesterday, I spoke to a guest here about her young son in his 20s. Now he has gut problems, and even though he eats a healthy diet. Well, what is a healthy diet today? When I look at most plant-based eaters, I don't consider them having a healthy diet. So we've got to really go up 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 notches, depending upon where you are. Now, first, I want to congratulate any of you that have made this very intelligent and smart and scientifically supported move to become a plant-based eater. But now we've got to refine that. And I didn't do it overnight. And unless you're fighting a big problem, a disorder, you don't have to do it overnight. But make a plan, a 6-month, a year, 2-year plan. So by the end of 24 months, you are actually eating at what I call an ethical level. at that point, ethical to yourself, the environment, and everything else. So when you do this, by the way, it takes away inflammation. When you're eating these healthy forms of food that don't disturb the gut, you don't putting eggs in, you're not putting fish in, you're not putting milk in, you're not putting cheese and yogurt and kefir in, all of this nonsense, whipped cream in, that you butter in, you're disturbing the gut. So once you get rid of that, your insulin is not going to spike. Get enough sleep. We spoke about this earlier. I cannot emphasize this enough. We use new technology. We have a whole energy medicine department here, and we have the most cutting edge units now in energy medicine. And we have one called Brain Tap that has been remarkable on even people who have had decades of sleep deprivation, helping them go back to sleep patterns. And this is very available. Learn about it. Brain Tap. Reduce stress. Now, how do you do that? Well, look at the work you're doing. I don't care if you're making a lot of money. If it's distressing you, you're not going to be around that long. So find a work that you're passionate about. Again, inspiration. You've got to be inspired by yourself. Who's got to impress you? You've got to impress you. Nobody else should impress you. If you're not impressing yourself, something's wrong with that picture. And it would be very impressive if you hate what you're doing and if it's stressful that you had enough guts and brains to get out and quit and find something that you really love to do, that impassions you. When you're impassioned, it's very easy to know you, and it's very easy to grow and change you. Eat at the same time every day. This is something that we're only now coming into focus with. We know that not eating too much is very important. Go back to what I said a few minutes ago, where we had the evolutionary development of the human body was very little food, highly nutritious plant-based food, and lots of periods between not eating. Intermittent fasting, we call it today, but it's what everyone did. And that's how the body wants food to come to it. But now we're actually saying, if you eat at 1 o'clock every day, your lunch, which should be the biggest meal of the day, we should eventually learn, once you're over blood sugar problems, hypoglycemia and diabetes and emaciation or bulimia or anorexia, you should avoid eating breakfast in the morning. I've been eating breakfast since 1971. And then big meal in the middle of the day, 12, 1 o'clock. We know between 11:30 in the morning and 1:30 in the afternoon, the sun makes it so the hydrochloric acid in your body is most active to break down proteins. So that's when your big meal should be. And if you're going to eat in the evening, which I avoid doing most of the time, is eat a very small meal. But make sure it's balanced. Make sure that what you're eating has maximum nutrient load in it. That you're not going to take something, oh, I have to mix this with that, and I have to know. I mean, for instance, you're eating some of these sprouts, they have everything you practically need. Eat 2 or 3 or 4 of those kind of sprouts or juice them. Wow. So eat at the same time every day, create a schedule. And by the way, when you're on a cell phone, people tend not to do that. Another observation that was made in that study is people who are chronically addicted, 67% of you to a cell phone use, you're not having normal patterns. You'd rather look at the cell phone than exercise. You'd rather look at the cell phone than sit down and eat with your family. You know, you're just so obsessed with the thing at that point. Saunas, I cannot talk enough about this. If you've ever heard me in the past, I rail about saunas. I take a sauna every single day. Today I was in the sauna and steam for 35 minutes total before coming here. 3 hours of working out at the gym. Part of that is sauna and steam. And then I came here to spend time with all of you. These are powerful, powerful agents, especially today on a septic planet. When the earth is so filled with pollutants, even if you live like a saint, the air you breathe, the water you bathe yourself in, even if you drink, as I do, pure water, it comes from everywhere. So when you take, especially infrared saunas, and you can do infrared near or far, both of these help to eliminate heavy metals and chemicals out of the body at an 87% higher rate than normal Scandinavian saunas.